Hey, this is Chantel Gerardy from Online Business Marketing, and today we're going to be talking about what's up. Basically, what standard operating procedure. I'll tell you two stories that almost like broke my heart, and I'll never forget them ever, 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 ever. And this is why I'm so passionate about SOPs. The first time was when I had my personal assistant and I had my gym here in Burley. And my personal assistant, she used to do everything and I had no idea what she did. And she just took over and she did whatever. And she came to me one day, and it was in December, which is summer on the Gold Coast, and it's our busiest time of the year. And she came to me and said, sorry, I've just decided I can't work for you anymore. No hard feelings, but I've got to go. And I had no idea. I had no idea how to log into the emails. I had no idea like the social media or what she was doing. I had no idea about like the brochure she was working on or like the lead magnet funnels that she was doing. I had absolutely no idea what she was doing at all. And it was the biggest lesson to me ever, because I remember crying for about 2 months. And ironically, didn't learn, had to happen to me a second time. When I had my marketing business, I had a virtual assistant who worked for me, an Australian virtual assistant who worked for me, and she went through a divorce and suddenly one day came to me and said that her mental health was not doing well, and she had to leave. And I had been saying to her the entire time we were working together, please could you write that up as an SOP? So every time you do something, please create an SOP, please create an SOP, please create an SOP. So I'd kind of learned to at least say, please create the SOP. But you know what I didn't do? I never checked. So when she suddenly left, I think she gave me like a day's notice or something, I had absolutely no idea what was going on in my business. And that was about 3 to 5 months of absolute trauma for me, trying to run my business and at the same time understand what was going on in the back end of everything. So I swore never again would it ever happen. And now my virtual assistants know that every time we have a meeting, I go, add that to the SOP, add that to the SOP, add that to the SOP, every single time we do it. And the other thing we do is we do what's called a SOP swap. So if I'm particularly quiet, like in a week, and I'll say, right, this virtual assistant reads that virtual assistant's SOP, and this virtual assistant looks at this virtual assistant's SOP. And the reason is because if they get hit by a bus, which I always say, if somebody gets hit by a bus, someone else can pick it up and they can follow it. It's not new to them. But what I've also discovered is, which was totally random, is that different virtual assistants, some of them are much better than others when it comes to SOP writing. And for example, with myself, I didn't realize that we've actually got Brooke here on call today, but Brooke's SOPs are absolutely phenomenal. Like, she's got this gift of being able to write the best SOPs ever. So when you've got someone like that on your team who can do that, well, you want to make sure that the rest of the team, you want to make sure that the rest of the team can, can follow suit, or she can actually guide them in writing SOPs. So when you're looking at different people's SOPs, they do come out differently. People do them differently. And for our live audience, this Thursday, we will be dropping you a SOP template. So you will be getting one inside our private VIP group. You obviously do need to be a paying member in order to be part of the live audience. So for those of you watching on YouTube right now, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell, turn on your notifications to make sure that you get all this training. If you are interested in being part of the live audience, just have a look in the notes below. Cool, so let's get back to standard operating procedures. Basically, I always say to people when they're doing something, and this is for business owners, they need to have them for themselves as well. But when you're doing something, right, it's like, you go to do it again, and then like you write yourself that whole procedure again, and then you go to do it again, and then you go, what did I do last time? And you go use your brain to try figure it out again. Now imagine if you just had a recipe and you could just pick up that recipe every single time and go, hey, like that's the recipe, I'll just follow that recipe. And then you can improve on that recipe as well. So for example, if this time, I don't know, you added 2 teaspoons of chili flakes instead of 1, and you preferred 2 teaspoons of chili flakes, well, you can go back to that recipe, add in that extra spoon of chili flakes. The next time you make it, you're not going, what was it? Was it 1 or was it 3? You actually know how many it was. So SOPs are absolutely phenomenal. We've had some other things happen in our business as well. I had 2 virtual assistants sick over the same week, and they had to manage client projects. So imagine if I could just take that SOP for myself and I could go in and implement their work, or I could get another virtual assistant just to pick it up and start doing it. So SOPs are really, really important for the business owner, important for the virtual assistant, important to actually take the weight or the pressure off of your brain. So in order for your marketing to be consistent, scalable, and for you to be productive, you've got to do you've got to do the SOPs, right? So today we're going to talk about the who, what, when, why, and how of writing marketing SOPs so that we can simplify our business marketing, right? And we're also going to talk about today some of the tools that you can use to make that really easy. I also always say that when you first ever bring on a virtual assistant, or if you ever are doing a task for the very, very first time, stop. And I say to everyone, slow down and do it slowly, and take the extra 5 minutes to slow down and do it thoughtfully and thoroughly, because you'll create the SOP and next time you don't have to do that ever again. Whereas people go, oh, let me just rush and do it now. And then they forget what they did, and then they come back and try recreate it. So I'm sure I've turned you into a SOP believer. So make sure that you've got a SOP folder and you put your SOPs in there. We don't use anything fancy. We've got Google Docs. So sometimes you might use a Google Doc, you might use a Google Sheet. Really easy to do, and write it out. And as I said, our live audience, I will give you a template, but for each business, it can be a little bit different about what type of things you actually want to include in there. All right, so if you're finding yourself going, I'll just do it myself, I can do it quicker, or why isn't somebody doing it the same? So for example, I always say headings are the biggest, subheadings are the next size down, and then the font's the next size down. I don't want to keep saying that same thing again and again and again, but if you've got a SOP for headings and subheadings, and you've all written that SOP, then you know straight away headings are bigger, subheadings are smaller. Headings are the most important, subheading explains, headings the hook, subheadings explain the hook. All right, so really, really important. And the other thing is, if your virtual assistant keeps saying, why are they asking me the same questions again and again? It's because you haven't got a SOP or they haven't created one. Okay, so for example, if I'm going to ChatGPT all the time and I go, ChatGPT, don't sound like ChatGPT, and remove all the emojis and the M dashes, it's the same thing. I don't want to have to go in and say that all the time. And you don't want to do that with a virtual assistant as well. But if you've got an SOP, they can follow it. All right, cool. So basically it is a document, which is a step-by-step guide. And they do say that a 13-year-old should be able to pick it up and read it. So that's how simple it should be. So we don't want to use complicated language. We want really simple procedures so that no matter who picks it up, somebody can fulfill that task. It can save you hours of explaining. It can make it really easy for you to delegate, because all you can do is go say, check the SOP. I've got a SOP on that. So you don't have to ask me, go check the SOP. It can reduce costly errors, and it can allow the business to scale without becoming chaotic. But more importantly, it allows you to train and onboard your virtual assistants a lot more easier. All right, so let's talk about the who. So we've got a five-part framework, which is firstly the who. So when writing your SOP, it's who. Who is responsible for completing this task? Okay, I always like, especially because I've got 3 virtual assistants, I always like to know where one person ends and one person starts, because else there's overlap or there's disconnect. And when something breaks, especially if there's overlap, they'll go, oh, they were meant to do it. No, they were meant to do it. So it needs to be clearly defined roles of who's responsible for completing that task. So recently, because I got a new virtual assistant, and he was taking over the majority of the podcast production side of things, but then I've got somebody who does, Brooke, who does the podcast marketing. I said to them, guys, you've got to go do a working bee. I need you guys to do a working bee, recreate the SOP, and make sure that you understand what he understands what you're doing and you understand what he's doing. And there's a clear line of where it ends and starts. Okay, so always the who. The next one is the when. So how often is this task to be done? Or perhaps is it a specific day or a time that task is going to be done? So for example, maybe you do a blog. Like I know Lance, they've got specific days where they write their blog. So in his SOP, it will be, this is the day that I write the SOP. This is the day that I schedule it. This is when it goes for approval. This is when it gets posted. This is when I look at the report. So the second one is the when. When does all of that happen, right? The third one is the what. So what exactly is this task? And you want to describe the task very specifically. So, for example, it might be repurposing a blog into emails and social media, because you want to be able to find that SOP quite easily. Now, we've also got like a SOP folder. So, for example, on a Google Sheet, we've got all our SOPs. So there's a link to every single SOP, because I don't just want to have to go to Google and go look. I mean, you can, it's easy to search for it, but it's nice to have a one sheet. You know, I love my one sheets. It's nice to have a one sheet, and to go with the one sheet, you want to have all your SOPs there, all listed with a link. And we've got written, and we've also got videos as well. But we've actually got the video link is on the written one sheet too. And then we've got the why. So many of you know, I went to the IGO conference in the Philippines for the second time. I presented there. And the massive theme on that day one was all around, whenever you delegate something, you're not delegating the task, you're delegating the outcome. What is the outcome of the task? It is exceptionally important for both the virtual assistant to know that, but also for the business owner, because you're not just posting event on social media. The whole thing is to generate, to qualify people, to get them to come to your event, to buy your program, and what is the program they're going to buy. So you need to know the entire outcome of what you're trying to achieve by that task. So that is the why. And the last one then is the how. So the step-by-step instruction. So step by step, what do you do? And it's everything. It's every link you've got to click. It might even be the login for that platform, or if you've got LastPass, you may then direct, say, find the password in LastPass. You're going to have in there the link of anything. For us, as I said, if we create a YouTube video or a Loom video, the link of that video goes into that document as well. And then we actually, in the YouTube video, we actually put the link to the SOP inside the YouTube video as well. So therefore, if a virtual assistant goes to the YouTube video to watch it, the written is in a link underneath. And if they go to the written, the YouTube link is to watch there. So we make sure, so that's going to be in our SOP, that we add the links on each other document to make sure that it's there, right? I know that Brooke's probably salivating right now because she loves SOPs, and she's probably going to go tidy up all my SOPs after this, which is awesome. So step by step, we want everything around, like, what tools are you going to use? You want to have the links in there. You want screenshots, Loom videos, absolutely everything. And I actually like numbers. I'm not a big fan of like dots. I love bullet points. Don't get me wrong, love bullet points. But when it comes to a step-by-step guide, I like numbers, because I can do number one, and then I can finish number one, and I can go to number two, and then I can go to number three. So I do like my numbers, right? All right, so let's talk about, I've just written up some examples of SOPs, because some of you might be going, oh, what SOPs am I going to write for my business, really? And there's heaps, and I've only just given you a few here. But if we just talk about some social media SOPs, for example, one might be how to schedule your weekly social post using Meta Business Suite or OBM Hub. Okay. Another one might be how to create and publish Instagram Reels, how to post articles with repurposed blog content, how to report social media insights weekly or monthly. And this is really important. I remember a business owner was getting really frustrated with in a virtual assistant, because they said every time they created an Instagram reel, it never was what they wanted. And I went, oh, really? Can your virtual assistant read inside your mind? Have you ever shown them? Have you ever like actually shown them what you want? Have you ever like shown them your font, describe the imagery, like talk them through the process? Or have you just gone, you make me real, and in 1 hour, and it must come out beautifully, and then be upset when it doesn't come out with what's inside your mind? So in SOP, business owners need to be writing those SOPs as much as the virtual assistant, although I do have a cheat for it. So actually, I'll bring my cheat into it now. This is how I do it. So if ever it is your first task, if it's your first task that you're giving to a virtual assistant, or if it's the first time that you're doing a task, I do it on a Zoom like this, either with myself, or if the virtual assistant is there, I do it with the virtual assistant. I do the task and I talk while I'm doing the task, while the virtual assistant's there, and they can ask me questions. That now gives me a recording, which I record to YouTube unlisted, or we record to Google Drive. And then from there, so it's unlisted, meaning that nobody can see it. It's just inside our back end. And then we use auto transcription, and auto transcription transcribes it and gives us step by step. Then the virtual assistant takes it and then they go add their little tweaks and their little flavor to the SOP, because obviously they're the ones now who are going to be doing the implementation. So they can go in and go, you know what, I've written over here that I need to send it to, I need to send a test on the Wednesday, but really that's not going to work for our business. So I'm going to change it and put on a Tuesday. So the virtual assistant then needs to go in and make that SOP themselves, and then they should give it to the business owner, and the business owner should then check it out. Then the SOP gets added to the SOPs list. It gets added to the SOP folder, and then obviously the video link is on the written link is on the video. Done. And both names are the same. So if it's SOP how to post LinkedIn articles, SOP how to post LinkedIn articles, keep the names the same, because else you go, what video goes with what, but we do put the links on there anyway. All right, let's talk about some email marketing SOPs. How to create and send an email, especially if you're looking at tags and segments. How to set up an automation for lead magnet delivery. So we've got heaps of SOPs for lead magnets. How to segment and clean your email list every quarter. How to resend unopened campaigns after 72 hours. There's just a few SOPs there. So here's a fun fact. If ever you want to sell your business, the price of your business that you can actually charge for it or sell it for is how many assets you have. SOPs are classed as an asset, and your followers and your fans and social media are classed as an asset. Meaning if you want to sell your business, if your social media following is big, if your email list is big, but if you've also got a SOP folder and that's big, you can sell your business for like a lot more, not just a little bit more, a lot more. So that's a fun fact for business owners. All right, so let's talk about some content marketing SOPs. How to write, formats and upload a blog to WordPress. How to create carousel graphics in Canva. And some of you might be going, oh, why would I write an SOP for that? You have to write an SOP for that, because let me just say a few things, right? You don't want more than 25% words on an image. The first image should be a hook image. The next 2 to 3, 4 images need to then be like the tip images, and then the content needs to be the normal structure of the 4 things, which is the hook, connection, credibility, and call to action. So, I mean, there, I've just given you a SOP for creating a carousel, and that's just briefly. But then you're going to be talking about the tone. You're going to be talking about a template. Perhaps you've got a template in Canva that you can add to that as well. All right, so the next one we're talking about is lead generation and CRM SOPs. And we're busy actively working on our CRM at the moment. We've got a CRM specialist in the back end sorting out our CRM for us. So every single week I have to go in and I've got to have a look at that SOP, because if he's setting up CRM funnels, so if someone becomes a lead, then they click a link, then they download something, then they do this. If I don't understand what the next step in that CRM is, and I'm wasting that lead. I'm not going to be able to pick up that lead or follow up with it. So I've got to understand how that CRM works, and so does my team. So again, he does a video, he does a step-by-step. My team and I watch it. It gets saved into our SOP folders. But let's just talk about some other lead generation and CRM SOPs. So for example, you could have how to log a new lead and assign tags, how to create and follow up with a new lead via SMS or email, how to set appointments in LinkedIn, so DM appointment setting in LinkedIn, how to post and pitch in Facebook groups to generate leads. All right, let's talk about our event and launch SOPs. So for example, you might go how to set up a Facebook event, invite and follow up on attendees, how to run a webinar funnel, how to write reminder emails, how to upload a replay and send a follow-up offer. For websites and SEO SOPs, it might be how to set up lead captures on a website, how to do a basic SEO check on a blog, for example, using like a Yoast plugin, and how to update Google My Business. And really nowadays, guess what SOP you need? How to prompt in ChatGPT. all of you should have a how to prompt in ChatGPT SOP. And if you buy someone else's, they're not going to be yours, because yours needs to be in your tone, your voice, and in alignment with your business. All right, so here's some of the tools for documenting your SOPs to make everything faster, more visual, and team friendly. As I said, for recording, you could use a Loom. Please note, if you get virtual assistants to use a Loom or a Zoom, they do expire. They don't last. So you do need to download it to Google Drive, or you need to upload it into YouTube Unlisted, and you can use it there. What we have found is that YouTube will not allow us to upload any SOPs where we're showing logins. So anything that is either financially or privacy related, we're not allowed to use. So we've done a lot of those SOPs in our Google Drive. So don't use the Loom and Zoom link. You actually have to download it onto your device so you own it. And then there's another platform called Tango.us. Now, I like Tango.us because it auto-generates SOPs with screenshots and steps. So whilst you're working on your laptop and you're doing it, so you're doing the task for the very first time, or virtual assistants doing it, if you've got Tango.us loaded, what it does is it takes screenshots however many times you're working. It takes screenshots and it creates it into step by step. Now, the reason I like that is because sometimes I don't want to watch a video. Sometimes but also when I read stuff, sometimes I like a visual. So Tango.us is really awesome like that, because it screenshots while you're working and doing the task. So it doesn't take you any longer to do it. Writing SOPs does not take you any longer. The only thing that takes time is you're going to go put it in your folder or your file, and that's a 2-second job. All right, so let's talk about transcription tools. I mean, in the olden days, you would then have to transcribe it yourself. You don't need to do that anymore. You can use Otter AI. So we have got Otter AI, which is syncs with our Zoom. So my Zoom and my Otter AI work together. You can see Otter's transcribing right now, and it will take the steps. You still have to use your human intelligence. You've still got to go back and you've got to have a look at it and go, is this right? Someone still needs to be fact checking ChatGPT and Otter AI. You still have to fact check, right? And then there's Descript as well. So Descript is another platform that we recently invested in, because you can edit video and audio. So for all our podcast marketing and reels and stuff, we quite like Descript. And it can also does transcripts as well, which is kind of cool. And then for storage and sharing, as I said, we put ours in a Google Doc or in a Google, we put all of them on one Google Sheet, and then each SOP is on a Google Doc. Making sure that you've got the what, when, who, how, and all the rest of it, right? So how do you make the SOPs work? Well, when you're delegating a task for the first time to a virtual assistant, if you've already got an SOP, you can actually attach that SOP to the project. So for example, if I say, okay, great, we've got a new virtual assistant. I know Lee's just got new virtual assistants, and maybe he's asking them to go and, I don't know, upload a podcast. He might have an upload a podcast SOP. He will then give them, when he allocates the task in the project management system, which is go and upload a podcast, he will then say, here's the SOP, follow this. So now the virtual assistant can do that. So you can attach the SOP links to the project task. You can include the video or the screenshots for those who are visual learners. I'm definitely a visual person, so I definitely do like the screenshots and videos. Another pro tip as well is to set reoccurring tasks to update the SOPs. There is a lot of the times people will go change a system or a process, but they don't go and update the SOP. So it's very, very important. And I normally do this. So when I have my conference week, so for example, in 2 weeks' time, I've got my conference week, so I'm away from the week. When I'm away, most of the time my team feel like I bother them less because I'm away and I'm busy. So my visionary brain doesn't go, oh, what about this? Or what about that? Or have you done this? Or have you done that? I kind of lead them to get on with it. So usually that's the week where I go, guys, this week I want you to update your SOPs. So everything that you do, I want you to go and check your SOP and check it's still relevant, right? And again, those SOP swaps are really cool when you can say, right, in our Monday meeting or in our Friday meeting, guys, I want you to swap SOPs. Sometimes I allocate the person who they're going to swap with. Sometimes I just let them swap themselves, or I just let them go to everyone. And the reason we do that is so that we make sure that a 13-year-old can understand it. But also, if you've got a virtual assistant who's particularly good with that, they might be able to say, hey, there's a better way to actually do that task. And that's the other reason why Working Bees works so well. And that's why next week I'm doing a training on Working Bees, because sometimes just sharing stuff actually is really helpful for all virtual assistants and business owners when they're doing something. Diane, I did see something coming through. Yes, it's quarterly. So every 3 months they should be updating their SOPs. Train your VAs to do it right from the beginning. As you onboard the virtual assistant, or even if you're doing the task, make it a rule that every time you do a task for the first time, you write it as an SOP, add it to the folder, and just make sure if virtual assistants are doing it, that the business owner does get to also check it. And yeah, it needs to be part of your onboarding, but it also needs to be part of your review process as well. Okay, if something's going wrong, I go, right, you're either not looking at the SOP or the SOP's wrong. All right. Okay, so that's it for today on standard operating procedures. What's up? So to our live audience that are watching on YouTube, if you haven't already, please make sure you've hit the subscribe button and the bell to turn on your notifications. If you do want to be part of the live audience, just click the call to action button down below, or subscribe and you'll get our weekly content. And now for our live audience, we're actually going to go behind the scenes and I can show you some of our SOPs.